Okay. I'm Walt Peretti from the Advocate for Injured Workers Office, or Advocate for Business Office at the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And if you have any questions as we go through the information today, we'll be able to answer those at the end of the presentation. So what does our office do? The Advocate for Business Office, we work with individual businesses that have any type of coverage or compliance issues. We work to educate business owners as well as government personnel on the workers' compensation system. And we meet with business associations, employer groups, trade groups to listen to their concerns regarding the workers' compensation system. Our office reports directly to the chairperson of the board, Clarissa Rodriguez. So we can bring any of those concerns back to her in terms of how we may be able to make the system better for businesses in New York State. What is workers' compensation insurance? Workers' compensation insurance covers any on-the-job injury, illness, and accident. It's there to provides both medical as well as wage replacement. So if you're injured on the job and you're unable to work, you would have an indemnity benefit, wage replacement benefit, as well as it would cover all your medical care. So if you're under workers' compensation injury, you would never pay any type of co-payment, lab fee, testing fee, etc. And it's much like any type of insurance. It's there both to protect both the employer and their employees, just like your auto insurance, homeowners, etc. The other side of our program is disability benefits insurance, and that covers off-the-job injuries, illnesses, and accidents. So if you're injured, breaking leaves, you hurt your back, you couldn't go to work, for a day or two because of it, there's limited wage replacement. There's no medical benefits. Hopefully, any medical benefits would be picked up by your health insurance. And under that, the wage replacement is $170 a week. It was $170 a week when I started with the board 27 years ago, and it's still $170 a week, and that's for a maximum of up to 26 weeks. So who needs coverage and who doesn't need coverage? Businesses with employees need coverage, essentially, okay? And our definition, and when I talk about these next few sentences and slides, is from a workers' comp perspective, okay? So not definitely from a Department of Labor or Department or Tax and Finance, but we define an employee as anybody that's providing any services to a for-profit business can be determined to be an employee of that business, okay? So even if you're helping a friend out on the weekend in their business, maybe you're mowing some lawn, etc., you would be determined to be an employee of the business, whether they're paying you or not. And then any compensated individual that's providing services to a not-for-profit can also be determined to be an employee of that not-for-profit. The exceptions with the not-for-profit is clergy members or teachers in a 501c3. Okay, so who's not required to carry it? And this is a question we get asked a lot. So in all those instances, these individuals or persons are not required to have the coverage. They're exempt under our law. However, they can go out and get the coverage, right? So if you're a sole proprietor, you have no employees, you're one man or one woman operation, maybe you have a bookkeeping service, or you do some landscaping, etc. You have nobody helping you in the business part-time, family members, etc. You'd be exempt from the coverage. You can go out and get a policy, okay, in which case it would cover you as a business owner, to protect yourself. And then if you're a partner in a partnership that has no other employees, so everybody that is engaged in that partnership is a partner in a business, and there's no other employees, they are all exempt. One or two person-owned corporations, all right, with no employees, they are also exempt. The caveat there is each person has to hold at least one share of stock in one office, and between the two of them, they have to hold all the stock. So if it's a three-person corporation, one person would be determined to be an employee of the business or the corporation, and the business would need coverage in that instance. But two-person corporation, they are exempt. Also, LLCs are exempt if the only compensated people are members of the LLC and they have no other employees. Okay, how does the carrier figure out the premium? All right, each job title has a 4-digit classification code attached to it in New York State, and data is collected on those codes. in terms of loss data, and it's basically how hazardous is doing that particular job. The rates are $100 are per $100 worth of payroll. So it's based on the size of the payroll and the job classification. And then also, like any other insurance, how good of a risk factor is your business? Do you have a lot of claims, et cetera? Carriers will do an audit generally on an annual basis, because when you go out to get a policy, they will ask you how much payroll you'll have, type of business, et cetera. And they'll bill you on those class codes and the payroll that you are anticipating having for that upcoming year. At the end of the year, they do that payroll premium audit. If you had a lower amount of payroll than you anticipated, or than you reported to the carrier, you would get a premium credit. If you had more payroll, you had a good year business wise, they would tax you with a surcharge, essentially, going forward. And then it's a competitive marketplace. Okay. We have both private insurance carriers. So like the Travelers, Liberty Mutual, State Farm. There's about 240 private insurance carriers that write workers' comp and disability benefits in New York State. There's also the New York State Insurance Fund. They write both of those insurances and only those insurances, and you can go to them for a policy if you have trouble getting one in the private market. Same type of coverage, it's statutory, so there's no Cadillac of coverage, so to speak. Okay. Under the coverage, there's specific coverage issues. I'll just touch on a few of those. We talked about sole proprietors, partnerships, and the LLCs, independent contractors and subcontractors. Okay, so we don't look at how we'll have a lot of businesses that are out of compliance and say, oh, I paid so-and-so on a 1099. He or she is an independent contractor. If you're materially participating in the business, you are considered to be an employee for workers' comp purposes, regardless of how you're being paid. Okay. Family members, if they're participating in the business, they are also considered to be employees. So if you have, Walt Peretti and sons or Walt Peretti and daughters, unless I made everybody a partner, I would need coverage for that. Okay. And then domestic employees, you also need coverage for that under certain thresholds. Okay. A quick scenario. We'll let you, once I read through these bullets, we'll let you type your answer into the chat box. So this is Jen's tutoring service, and Jen is going to start her own SAT tutoring business. She will hire independent contractors for all the tutoring services. All right, the parents will contact Jen, and she will match their child with a tutor. Parents will pay Jen, and she will in turn pay the tutors. Is Jen required to provide workers' compensation for her independent contractors? And I'll give you, or Deb will give you 30 seconds or so, and you put those answers right in the chat box. Okay, so the answer is yes, Jen would be required to have coverage. Okay, a couple reasons. They are integral, right? Those tutors are integral to the success of her business. Number one. Number two is obviously Jen is going to, the parents are going to pay Jen, and Jen's in turn going to pay those tutors. Jen is going to take, a certain portion of that payment for herself and for providing the administrative and the referral service. And they're in the same type of business. We look at that a lot. Okay. So they're tutors in a tutoring business. So Jen would have to have coverage for those independent contractors that she's calling them. I'll go to that. Okay. So some of the factors we consider when determining if somebody's an independent contractor or an employee is, does a hiring business control the time and manner in which to work? Okay, so back to our Jen's tutoring service, right? She's going to tell the tutor, hey, can you meet so-and-so at 120 their house on 123 Main Street on November 12th at 3 p.m. to tutor them. Is there a separate, do they have a separate FEIN number? Okay, the individuals, the tutors do not probably have a separate FEIN number from the IRS. All right, they're just individuals. They're not a separate business. Do you maintain a separate business establishment from the hiring business? Okay, and as far as in our employer section on our website, you can go there and it'll give you the listing of the factors we look at, a more complete listing of the factors we look at when determining if somebody is an employee of a business or an independent contractor. Okay. Construction workers, we get this a lot. We give this presentation to the tradespeople. Under the Construction Industry Fair Play Act, workers are presumed to be an employee unless they can prove they have their own business. All right. So if you're a general contractor and you're building a house or building a building and you're hiring a separate roofing company, a separate mason, framer, etc., they can be deemed to be independent contractors. Okay. And if you want more information on that, that Construction Industry Fair Play Act, it's listed at the Department of Labor's website, and that's simply labor.ny.gov. Okay. And general contractors are liable for all workers' comp claims of all uninsured subcontractors. So a lot of times a general contractor might not need their own coverage if they're a one-person operation, all right? And they're using all subs that are in a separate business like we just spoke about. But it's our recommendation that they get the coverage, all right? And they make sure that any of their subs also have the coverage, okay? And on their subcontractors policy, they would want to list that general contractor as a certificate holder, because the way, just like, you know, the credit union or the bank is listed as a certificate holder on your auto loan, should anything change with that policy, your subcontractor goes out and gets the coverage, then he doesn't pay his quarterly premium, and they get canceled. The general contractor, being a certificate holder, being listed as a certificate holder, would get a letter from the carrier saying, you know, Walt Peretti roofing and framing was canceled on November 10th or 11th for non-payment of premium. So it's important as a general contractor that you make sure that your subcontractors all have their own policy and they list you as that certificate holder on their policies. Okay, some of the penalties we have at our disposal, and these are written into law, but I will say our compliance people and our office as well. We look at the fairness, so to speak, and the situation of the individual employer. And then we assess the penalty, based on that, as well as the business size. But the penalties that are on the books it's $2,000 for every 10 days that you do not have a workers' comp policy, and you should have had one, or you had employees, or you had payroll, which comes out to approximately $72,000 a year. If it's up to 5 employees, it's a misdemeanor, subject to a maximum additional $5,000 penalty. More than 5 is a Class E felony, and is subject to a $50,000 penalty and a maximum of 1 1/3 to 4 years in prison. All right, and now we're not in the business of putting businesses out of business or putting anybody in prison, obviously, and we understand things happen. So we do our best to work with individual employers. A lot of times, what we'll say is go out and get the coverage, all right, and then we'll listen to any appeal that you might have. And we'll also, once they have their coverage in place, we'll ask them to submit that premium information, because we're not going to charge, $2,000 for a business that was out of compliance for 11 days if their annual premium was only $1,500. So we'll base any type of fine or penalty off of that policy. And then if you're misclassifying workers, so if you have a business and you're reporting payroll in a class code that is actually a lower rate than what the job they're actually doing, that is the same as being uninsured, and those penalties would be applied. Okay. Also, the debarment list. And unfortunately, we get this a lot. We just had a conversation with our chairperson yesterday about it. So if you are found to be without workers' compensation or disability benefits coverage for any period of time, you go on the debarment list, all right, and you're barred from bidding on any type of public work contract or subcontract with New York State or any other municipal corporation or public body. So any authority, any town, village, county, etc. And that ban is for 1 year. A lot of companies that end up there on that debarment list, they go out, they do the right thing, they get the coverage, they pay the fine, and they want to come off. But unfortunately, you remain on that list for a 1 year period. Okay, and the ban is 5 years for any type of felony conviction. Okay. Again, our appeal process, the best thing to do is you'll get a letter from us. It's called the GI letter, General Inquiry Letter. You just want to make sure you respond to that letter. There's instructions right on the letter. You can either go online and respond to it, or you can send it through the mail if you'd like. You just want to contact us, make sure you get the coverage in place, because we won't listen to any type of appeal until you're in compliance. And then, explain to us, what happened. Maybe, you got some misadvice from your accountant, or, you just bought the business, you thought the coverage was in place, etc. Maybe, you had some type of, family illness and you kind of fell behind on the bills and didn't remember to pay the workers' compensation premium bill. Just explain to us, and then we'll work with you to come up with a fair settlement. Okay. A couple ways you can control your premium. Okay. Make sure the correct classification code is being applied. So look at those class codes on your bill. And also follow your claims. All right. Stay informed, stay in touch with that injured worker. Make sure he or she still feels part of the workforce. You're going to welcome them back when they get off that injury and they're able to work, and then operate safely. It's a lot of little trips and falls and sprains, extension cords on a floor, etc. Slippery floor space, employees not lifting properly. Those are all things where you can train your staff to do, and that cut down on your risk of injury. Okay. You can also form a labor management safety committee. Okay. And it's a simple process. It's not as difficult or as long as the title suggests. You just would want an equal number of members from both labor and management. You want to rotate the chair of that committee amongst the members, and then have a regularly scheduled meeting with an agenda. Okay. Some of the tasks, the Labor Management Safety Committee: visit the workplace. You have multiple workplaces, take a tour of the workplace, review the equipment, as well as the sites and the procedures that the employees are using. Make sure you establish safe procedures. Make sure you train your employees on those procedures to be safe. There's also a workplace safety prevention incentive program. It's a voluntary establishment of a safety, drug, and alcohol prevention program, or a return to work program. You can cut your workers' comp insurance premium by 10% the first year you have it in place, and then 6% in years 2 and 3. That's a program is run by the Department of Labor. And if you want more information on that, the website, their website is right at the bottom. Just go on there and, you can find additional information on it. They also offer a free on-site consultation program where they will visit the workplace and look at safety risks and try to help you mitigate them as best as possible. Again, no cost to you as the employer. And if you want to take advantage of that program, the number to call is 518-457-2238. Some of your responsibilities, as far as if you're an employer in New York State or have New York State employees. So even if you're an out-of-state employer, you have some employees. We just had a call today where a business was out of state, but they have an employee working from their home in New York. And we advise them that they need coverage because that employee is considered a New York employee, even though the business is domiciled in Massachusetts. So as an employer, you want to make sure you obtain the required insurance. Once you have a policy, you'll get a poster. It's a C-105. It kind of shows that you have insurance, and it will get a phone number to call if a worker's injured. You want to make sure you display that poster. And then any claims are reported in a timely manner. Okay, so when it happens, you report that claim to your insurance carrier, and you cannot discriminate against an employee for filing a claim. Okay, employees can only be terminated for a valid business reason. Okay, whether it be misconduct, insubordination, lack of work, lengthy absence, inability to perform a job. And any employee is eligible for workers' comp coverage, regardless of whether they're a citizen of the United States or not, or their immigration status. Paid family leave. That's a program came out in 2018 that Governor Cuomo signed into law, and it provides job protected paid time off, whether it be to bond with a child, care for a sick family member, or assist family when a service member is deployed abroad. So bonding with a child provides time for both parents. All right, it's up to 12 weeks. Okay, and that's for each parent within the first 12 months of a birth of a child, the adoption of a child, or any type of foster care. Okay, also caring for a sick family member with a serious health condition, and those qualifying family members include your spouse, or domestic partner, child, stepchild, parent, parent-in-law, mother, father-in-law, step-parent, grandparent, or grandchild. And then effective this January, so only a couple months away, siblings will be included as members eligible to receive family care under paid family leave. So if you had a sick brother or sister, you would be able to take time off to care for them. Okay. A serious health condition is defined as an injury, illness, or impairment, or physical or mental health condition requiring either inpatient care or continuing treatment or supervision by a healthcare provider. COVID-19 may also be considered a serious health condition. Okay. If you're taking that paid family leave time to assist during a military deployment, okay, it covers short notice military deployment, any type of military event or related activity, the service members' rest and recuperation, any type of counseling post-deployment, if you need to help them make financial legal arrangements, or if you're providing child care arrangements for the military member's child. Okay. So for paid family leave is written under disability benefits law. So generally 99.9% of times when you get that disability benefits policy, paid family leave will be included in that. Because basically virtually all private employers are required to provide PFL coverage. Okay. So as the employer, you have to procure the cost or procure the coverage. And you can deduct the cost of that coverage from the employee's paycheck. There's no cost to the business to provide paid family leave, whereas both workers' comp and disability, well, mainly workers' comp is a business cost. Okay, disability benefits, they can withdraw 60 cents up to 60 cents a week to put towards the cost of disability insurance, which does not, cover the disability insurance in full. But on the paid family leave side, the total cost of providing that insurance is paid for by the employee, unless the employer decides to pay it. Okay. Sole proprietors and other self-employed individuals. So we talked about how they are exempt under workers' comp, and they can get it for themselves if they like. It's also voluntary on the paid family leave side. So they can opt in for coverage if they are just starting their business and they opt in within the first 26 weeks. So the first 6 months of starting their business, there'd be no waiting period. So they could opt in and they could take the benefit right away. If they opted in after 26 weeks of starting that business, they would have to wait 2 years to take any paid family leave time. And what are the time off and wage benefits? So the weekly benefit is the same as the workers' comp. Okay. So it's 67%. So it's 2/3 of the average weekly wage. And that's capped at the average weekly wage in New York State. Okay. So every year that's indexed on July 1st, the New York State average weekly wage. And an employee's average weekly wage is based on their last 8 weeks of pay prior to family leave, with the maximum, which would be $1,594. So you'd make 2/3 of that if you made over that. Otherwise, you would just make 2/3 of your own average weekly wage. And you can take this time. The nice thing about the benefit is you can take the paid time off all at once. Okay, so you could take 12 straight weeks if you had a birth of a child or adopted, etc. Or you can take it intermittently. All right. So you can take a week here, a week there, a day here, a day there. But the only caveat is it must always be in full day increments. So you can't take a half day off to take a sick family member to the doctor or for care or to care for your child. You would have to take the full day. Okay. So again, it's fully paid for by employee payroll contributions unless the employer chooses to pay. The Department of Financial Services sets the employee contribution rate to match the cost of the coverage. And that coverage information, the cost, is on the paid family leave website. There's a deduction calculator, etc. Okay. Can an employee waive coverage? All right. If they regularly work 20 or more hours per week, but won't be in employment with that employer for 26 weeks, okay? Or if they regularly work fewer than 20 hours a week and won't work 175 days in a 52-week period, all right? The employer provides the waiver form to all employees who may qualify. A template waiver form is available at paidfamilyleave.ny.gov. And employees who properly file a waiver will be ineligible for benefits and they are exempt from making contributions. Can waivers be revoked? So if an employee's schedule changes such that they no longer qualify for that waiver, it'll automatically be revoked within 8 weeks of their schedule change. And then the employee would begin making the paid family leave contributions along with any other retroactive amounts that are due. So from an employer's perspective, the responsibilities are they have to obtain the paid family leave coverage, the insurance, pay the premium with any funds they collect from the employee payroll deduction. They want to provide information about the program to the employees. Again, you'll get a poster as an employer once you have that coverage. It's called the PFL 120. You just want to make sure you display that, in a break room or common area where employees gather, et cetera. And then you would provide the wage information to the insurer when an employee requests to take the PFL, the paid family leave. The website is really helpful. There's a lot of meaningful information. So if you have additional questions, you go right to the paid family leave website, paidfamilyleave.ny.gov, and everything that you need to know should be there. Okay. COVID-19, we'll talk about that in the leave. So if there's an illness, if a worker notifies you they have tested positive for COVID-19, you must report it to your insurance carrier, who will then in turn file a claim with the board. Okay. And COVID-19 quarantine leave provides workers with job protection and financial compensation when they or their minor dependent child are subject to a mandatory or precautionary order of quarantine or isolation. All right. Most employees get the financial compensation by using a combination of their benefits. So it could be their employer provided sick leave, depending on the size of that employer, paid family leave, and disability benefits. So kind of like a basket. So you always want to make sure with that leave, whether you're self-insured or providing these benefits through an insurance carrier, is largely the same as it's been for paid family leave overall. Okay. And the forms for the COVID-19 quarantine, if you're placed on quarantine, those forms are found at our paid family leave website. Okay. And if you need further details, again, just go to that paid family leave website and it has guidance for employers. So for most employers that have 10 or fewer employees and a business net annual income of less than $1 million, the employee can use a combination of paid family leave and disability benefits. Okay, so after receiving their full paid family leave benefit of up to $840.70 a week, $840.70 per week, the employees will receive disability benefits to match their full wages up to a maximum weekly benefit of $2,043.92. Okay, there's no waiting period for either benefit, and the employee will have job protection for the duration of that quarantine. Okay, if you're that next level, in terms of total number of employees, so if you have 11 to 99 employees, and then if you're an employer with 1 to 10, but you have a net annual income greater than $1 million, you're required to provide at least 5 days of paid sick leave for COVID-19. After that, the employee can use a combination of their own paid family leave and disability benefits. And again, the same total amount. So they'll get their paid family leave benefit up to the $840. And then they'll get disability benefits to match their full wages. Again, no waiting period, and the employee has job protection for the duration of the quarantine. And if you're a larger employer, so you have 100 or more employees, as well as public employee, you're required to provide at least 14 days of COVID-19 paid sick leave or related quarantine, which should cover that total period of the mandatory precautionary order of quarantine or isolation. And again, the job protection applies for the larger employers as well. Okay. Again, if you have more information, we have a great website, paidfamilyleave.ny.gov. And there's also a helpline where you can, if you need to talk to a real life person and get your questions answered, you would just call that helpline that's on your screen, and they'll be happy to walk you through it or answer any questions that you might have. We also have a new business information system that we're phasing in. So it provides access to real-time claim status and online self-service features and e-forms. If you want to stay informed through us, you can sign up wcb.ny.gov/onboard, and you'll get updates from us. You can also, as every business entity has now, we have a Twitter page, a Facebook page, Instagram, a YouTube channel, as well as you can sign up for email alerts. And with the email alerts, you can check, you know, what you want, whether you want it from an employer perspective or business perspective, or as an employee, you can, you know, so you're not getting a bunch of emails that might not be relevant. You can sign up for emails about subjects that you were interested in from the Workers' Comp Board. Okay, our office, you can always feel free to give us a call if you have any issues. Our general office number is 518-486-3331. If you need something in writing, you want to send us an email or want your question answered in writing, you can do that at advocatebusiness@wcb.ny.gov. And if you have any other questions on our office, or if something comes up, you know, tomorrow, next week, whatever, feel free to go to our website and then just search under Advocate for Business. And there's a bunch of helpful information there.
That's excellent.
So just thanks for coming out today. And if you have any questions, if you want to type them in the chat box, we'll look at them and we'll be happy to answer them for you.